So a few years ago, I responded to a video from Kehlani discussing her new spiritual awakening. And here we are 2 years later with allegations of her being in a sex cult. Well, alleged allegations of her being in a sex cult. So this is the video that I was responding to 2 years ago.
How
I
so?
mean, I'm just very different.
Yeah.
I went through a very long spiritual process, and even the last time I was here, I was very much fresh out of it. It's like an actual process. It isn't like, oh my God, I took some time off and I really
Is
focused
that
on
something you
myself
can
and
you
I've
can
read
share with
books.
us?
It is essentially a rebirth. It's a rebirthing period and a very serious time in my religion. I'm in an Afro-Cuban religion called La Regla de Ocha. It is derivative of the Yoruba people in West Africa.
Okay.
And it was brought to Cuba, kind of like the birth child of the West African religion and Catholicism.
How did you find that?
It found
introduced?
me.
Okay.
When you enter it, you have a conversation with somebody and they explain that the belief is that it's for everyone and every single person, on this planet is derivative of one of the energies that we work with. I ended up coming to somewhere and coming to some amazing elders who actually revealed to me that I was on a really short path to losing everything I worked for
Right.
or being sick or dying young or things like that. And I quickly got myself together and now I'm a whole nother person.
In that video, I went on to explain my experience with Santeria and how some of my experiences lined up with what she was experiencing, and then how I got out of Santeria and my experience of getting out of Santeria. I also have a whole entire video discussing a lot of the things that I went through when I was part of Santeria and a lot of things that I went through when I was getting out of Santeria. I will leave that at the end of this video. I'll actually leave both of those videos at the end of this video. But today, I specifically wanted to focus on some of the allegations of her being in a sex cult and breaking this down. There's this whole debacle of her baby's father wanting full custody of her kids because of the cult that she is allegedly in. So we're going to read a few pieces of these articles, and I specifically want to focus on the allegations of somebody bathing with Kehlani's daughter while being on psychedelics, and the allegations of this being a sex cult. So this is what we're going to be breaking down today. By the way, my apologies for my camera skipping. I have no idea what's going on with that, but let's get into it. So this was the original article right here, and it says Kehlani's ex, Javon Young White, has filed a paternity petition to gain full custody of their 5-year-old daughter, Adea, claiming the singer is in a sex cult. So that's the allegation being made. According to court documents obtained by Page Six, which is this website, Young White, who dated the After Hours songstress — I love how they always plug her songs — from 2018 to 2019, alleges that his name was not listed as the father on their daughter's birth certificate because Kehlani gave birth through a home birth orchestrated by what I would describe as a cult that she allegedly belongs in. Quote, for the past 5 years, I've requested a copy of Adea's birth certificate and for my name to be added to her birth certificate to no avail, the document states. White further alleges that Kehlani, who uses she, they pronouns — don't know why that's relevant — has refused to give him Adea's social security number and noted in the filing that he isn't sure if the young child even has one based on Kehlani's actions and behavior. So that's kind of the mess that we're in, or that they're in. And it gets a little bit deeper. He alleges that she has been involved in this cult for the past few years, and he believes the cult allegedly controls Kehlani's actions and her behavior, including when it comes to the upbringing of our daughter. For example, the cult leader, who goes by the name Nito, which I found this guy, and we're going to break my findings down in a little bit, convinced respondent, who is Kehlani, that he had a vision that I was a danger to our daughter and would kill her, and thereafter banned Kehlani from allowing me to see Adea, the filing reads. Based on this vision by her cult leader, Kehlani prevented me from seeing our daughter for months. Young White claims he found out that Nito allegedly has numerous accusations of committing sexual assault against women and young girls. So let's just break this part down real quick. Now, my experience in Santeria was very similar to this. The Santero or Santera who is in control of, let's just call it your little Santeria group, right? They would always have visions many times during a ceremony. Now, if you know nothing about Santeria, what happens during these ceremonies is somebody will get possessed by a quote unquote saint or an Orisha, and then will go on to tell you about your life and good things that could potentially happen and bad things that are definitely going to happen if you don't do something for the Orisha or quote unquote saint, right? And that's what this looks like. It looks like during one of these ceremonies, this guy got possessed by a quote unquote saint or an Orisha and told her about how the father of this child is no good. You have to keep the father away. And this is actually a manipulation tactic to keep people away who would question the cult or question these practices, right? So that is something that you will always find with any cult, is the exclusion of people who are outside of it. So this does line up to what I would agree is some pretty cultish stuff. Let's get back into it. Now, as far as the allegations of him, sleeping or sexually assaulting other women, I don't know what those are founded on, so I'm not going to comment on that. So this is what I really wanted to point out. Young White alleges in the court documents that Nito allegedly performs religious ceremonies on Adea and that no one is allowed to be in the room when he conducts them. When I discovered this on her birthday in 2023, I was physically restrained and threatened by members of the cult when I attempted to retrieve our daughter, he claims in the filing. I want to pause real quick and then I'm going to read this next part and we're going to connect the dots, right? These ceremonies that no one else is allowed to participate in, they do happen. I participated in ceremonies where nobody else that was in my little Santeria crew, nobody else was allowed to be at except me and the two people who were doing the ceremony on me. And if there was some bugged out stuff that they wanted from me, and you can check out the video where I break all that down. I'll leave it at the end, but it was some really bugged out stuff, right? So this is not something out of the ordinary. Doing rituals on somebody alone is something that definitely happens. Now, doing them on a child, that's some scary stuff right there. I don't know if anyone has but this is what happens when you trust the cult leader, when you trust this person so much that you'll allow your daughter to be alone with him while he's doing ritual ceremony on them. Like that's a little bugged out to me. But anyway, now it goes even further. So let's get into this right here. So what I want to do is just, before I get into this whole psychedelics thing, I want to read an update to this. All right, so this is Javon's response, who is the baby father in this situation. He says, I never said that I think Santeria is a sex cult, nor did I say that my daughter is in a sex cult. This is factually incorrect, and I think it's disgusting that TMZ would exploit a child's image like that. So I would agree with him. Now, I have many issues with Santeria, and look, there are offshoots of Santeria, but generally speaking, it's not a sex cult. It's not. It is a cult of many other things, but it is definitely not a sex cult. Now, I don't know if Kehlani is in an offshoot of this in which they're practicing sexual rituals. I have no idea. But I would agree here, and I think that this is good because you can have a problem with something, a worldview, a religion. You can have a problem with it, but don't mischaracterize them just because you don't like them. That's something we shouldn't be doing, right? Now, he goes on to just then say he fired his lawyer and stuff like that. So that is the update on the situation. Now, I just want to connect some dots here. So this is one of the allegations in the initial filings, right? So this is Javon speaking. He says, I also learned that Kehlani allows a member of the cult that she calls Messiah, an adult woman, to take baths with Adea, his daughter, while being under the influence of psychedelic drugs. Now, when I was in Santeria, I did psychedelics, but it was never because a Santero told me or a Santera told me. It was never from the influence of the people involved in Santeria. I did them for complete other reasons, okay? So I am not going to say that no psychedelic use is involved in any of the offshoots of Santeria, but generally speaking, it's just not something that goes on here. So what I'm thinking is happening is that she is now addicted to something that I call spiritual heroin. Now, psychedelics is becoming more and more popular in culture today. It just is. You'll see all these ayahuasca retreats. You see that now there's mushroom gummies and psilocybin gummies that you get ads for on Facebook. So it's becoming more and more prevalent. So I do not see why it could be impossible that this has crept its way into the offshoot of Santeria that Kehlani is a part of. And this is why I truly believe that this is what's happening. Now, I found this guy, Nito. All right, so this is the guy who is allegedly controlling Kehlani's life. And we're going to break down what all of this means right here. Now, you can't directly access his Instagram. It is private, but if you go on Google, you can see some of the pictures that are on his Instagram. Nothing out of the ordinary. In Santeria, you'll see a lot of people wearing white. You'll see ceremonies that look like this. Sometimes people wear white for graduation ceremonies. Other times it's just because they have to do this because they were instructed to by a santero or an orisha or a quote-unquote saint. But anyway, let's go look at this guy's profile. So this is his Instagram. It says Archbishop Oliche Ode. Pretty sure that's not his real name. And he's been a priest for 23 years, which means he got into this young. And many people who are born into families that are practicing Santeria, they get brought up in it. So I'm just going to speculate. I think that's what happened with him. He was brought up into this. Now, this right here, this Egbado Lusimi Oba, this just essentially means that he is a chief in the Yoruba religion, right? And Lusimi is what the Cubans would call the Yoruba people, and also the Lusimi religion, which is also known as Santeria. And this right here, Oriate, is just his, I said that like I was Japanese. It just means he's a master of ceremonies, right? So he is the master of ceremonies and a chief in the Yoruba religion. Now, all these things right here, Olu Urisa, that just means that he is a chief priest in, Yoruba spirituality. Olo Uchun, this is an actual deity. He's the river deity, the river Orisha of like love and fertility. This is big dog right here. Then you have, so he is a chief priest of that Orisha. Then you have Olubata, which just means that he's a master at drums, and drums is really important when it comes to the ceremonies. Then you have this one right here, and this is where the dots are going to connect. Olu Osain, which just means that he is a master at herbal medicine and plant medicine. Now, this is not something out of the ordinary. There's all these lotions and potions and stuff that I got when I was involved in Santeria. There was some that I would, put on me as perfume that would cologne that would attract people and women to me. There's a whole bunch of different formulas. There's ones that you drink. There's ones that I got a whole cleansing done that I took a bath in, right? There's all these different concoctions. But plant medicine also means psychedelics. And so right here is where I think I'm connecting the dots to what's going on. And I'm just speculating, guys. I'm just speculating. But if it's true that Kehlani is allowing somebody to bathe with her daughter while they are on psychedelics, one, I have all the reason to believe that Kehlani is doing psychedelics as well, which again is popular nowadays. But it just seems to me that if somebody is part of Santeria and they're doing psychedelics while bathing with a child, that she is definitely in some weird, Santeria is weird to me, period, but she is in a super weird offshoot of this. And the funniest part about this, so these are just other different parts of Africa and different African spiritualities. So like this is the Congo and everything. But what's being said right under what I just read. But I find it interesting here, in Jesus' name. So this guy uses in Jesus' name. And this, my friends, is what I want to highlight. This is how they got me. By pretending to be in a line with Jesus. When I was introduced to Santeria, I had no idea about all these orishas. I had no idea that it was connected to Yoruba spirituality. I had no idea. I thought it was connected to Roman Catholicism, which in a way it is. I'm not going to get into breaking all of this down. I'm going to leave a few videos. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a playlist of all the times I've spoken about Santeria, and you can just go through it. So I will leave that at the end of this video. But this is how they tricked me. I thought that, and I was agnostic at the time that I got introduced to all of this, but I always associated Jesus with being a good dude. And I thought that because these were the quote unquote saints and disciples of Jesus, that what I was getting involved in was good. And it turned out to be one of the most demonic things I have ever experienced in my life. So, with all that being said, we're going to have to wait for all these allegations to be proven true when it comes to Kehlani and this court battle and everything. But we just need to pray for this woman. I said this 2 years ago. We need to pray for Kehlani because it seems that she is spiritually lost and that she is in what I call the spiritual heroin cycle, just chasing spiritual high after spiritual high after spiritual high. And she's allowing these people to control her life. We need to pray that this bondage is broken off of her and that she truly finds Jesus, not just somebody pretending to do things in Jesus' name. You know what happens in Jesus' name when you confront these orishas and these quote unquote saints? They have no choice but to flee because they're demonic. When they are presented with the real Jesus of the Bible, they have no choice but to flee. So with that being said, guys, we need to pray for her. If you are involved in Santeria, I implore you to watch the playlist. This is not, when I talk about Santeria, it's not me trying to knock somebody's culture or anything like that. I grew up around this culture. I grew up around people from the Caribbean, Latinos y Latinas. I lived in Puerto Rico for 3 years. My wife is Puerto Rican. I'm part of this culture. So I just know how damaging it can be in the long run. So definitely look into it more. Do your research on that. With that being said, I'm going to leave the videos right here. God bless. I'll see you guys on the next one.